What is up, everyone? This is Michael Wittemann, and today I'm going to show you the Fahrvergnügen as well as brief introduction to the torque slide. For this specific trick, I'm going to start out at the rail instead of the ledge, because I think the trick itself is tricky and unique enough that learning this on a rail will do just fine, and then you can translate this to a ledge. But you can choose whatever spot you're more comfortable with. I'm gonna go with the rail first and then gonna move on to the ledge. As you can see, the Fahrvergnügen is basically stance-wise the same as a Royale grind. So you're gonna get down like this. Basically, it's exactly like a Royale, but you're just gonna go the other way. So as we did in the Royale video, you're gonna bend your knees forward and to the side. And instead of grinding this direction, we're just gonna go this way. One thing that you might notice once you try this trick is that it's gonna be a bit harder to get this boot down, just because of fear factor, and it's not naturally going in, but you kind of have to like actively lean forward, or at least it feels like that. While in reality, you just need to make sure that your body position is just like with the Royale. You want to have the hip like slightly over this, or maybe even more a bit to the middle, and work your knees and ankles as well. So gonna have a very comfortable approach on this one. Last bit, just like with the Royale, I'm gonna be approaching at more of an angle at first to make sure that I'm getting my hips centered over the rail. Just gonna run up, and that's basically it. The trick itself is not that much of a mystery, or like that much work as you might think. It's definitely a high reward trick, and it's gonna need some practice to get used to it and like to feel really comfortable with this. But once you get the hang of it, like once you can tell, like once you like automatically move your knees and hips in the position that you need to go, it's kind of like the Royale. It's just gonna be a bit of a safety trick. One thing that you're gonna notice way more on this trick than on the Royale, in my opinion, is you're gonna feel the boot down. Whether you are boot down or not, you're gonna feel it way more intensely and way more precisely. So if you're like easing into the trick, which happens at first, don't get discouraged. At first it might just happen that you're gonna be like this, and then slowly going down, and at one point you feel that resistance of the backslide plate on your spot, in this case on the rail. If that happens, that just means you need to commit a bit more when jumping on, and that's basically it. If you usually it takes a pretty dramatic form of like overcommitting in order to like fall over and fall to the front, but that's a very legitimate fear to have at first. So just try to work on it, try to comfortably get your boot down. Moving on to the ledge, which is a bit harder to maneuver than the rail, but if you're familiar with the movement in general, it's going to be a bit easier to translate this onto the ledge. What is important on the ledge is just, we're focusing on front side of Fahrvergnügen first, just because I think it's way more convenient, way easier. It's going to take a bit more commitment, but it's going to be just way more like just safe, basically. On backside Fahrvergnügen, I see many people, they prefer this trick over the backside because they can like half-ass it, which sounds really mean, but it's generally the case when people are just like kind of like next to it and jumping on. I'm not gonna, I don't want to call anyone out. No one should feel offended by this. It's just objectively the case that many people try to like ease into the trick by not fully leaning on and not doing the trick like that, but rather like jump halfway onto it and then kind of like move on from there, which is not what I would recommend. If it works for you, great. For me, it would never work, definitely. I need to have my body centered on the ledge. So I actually made a specific video about this. If you haven't seen it and if you're still wondering, go check that out first. But we're gonna go to the ledge now. One thing you're gonna notice about the ledge is just you're gonna feel more resistance. It's not like the rail which just slides through. The ledge is gonna give you, got stuck on the jump off. The ledge is gonna give you resistance on top. So we're doing the front side Fahrvergnügen first. So it's the front wheel, like the second wheel from the front, that is touching the ledge, and you're gonna have to work against that. So that only means you need to lean that much more on top, and in order to maintain balance and also to maintain the boot down aspect of the trick. Let me just show you this in very slow motion. And I'm gonna go up there. One thing I didn't mention, this made probably no sense to you watching this right now, and also the angle is not that great, but it's gonna make sense in a minute. All right, so what you wanna do when you do the front Fahrvergnügen, it's the same with the front tutorial. You wanna push your knees over and you wanna have them parallel. So we're gonna stand like this, and that's gonna be your ideal stance. You don't wanna have this or that, because both of those things can happen. If they do, it's usually a problem with your hips. Probably the hips facing too much forward than anything else, or backward, or you're leaning back, and that can happen. So if you ever catch yourself doing this, either ask someone if they saw what could be done wrong, or record yourself and just have a look at it. As for me, I've done countless repetitions, so on the front Fahrv I feel like I'm safe enough to go like this, and I have both my knees over the ledge, maintaining that tension on that boot down, maintaining the weight on top of the ledge, making sure that I can actually grind all the way through. That's also one thing I had to remind myself actually when learning this trick with the other foot, so with the left foot, because I still have my struggle with this, but I'm kind of like trying to work in all those rules and tips of myself to get this trick properly. So it's just all about having, oh my God. So I'm trying to work in all those tips myself. So I'm just gonna try to get my knees on top. And one thing you could probably see right here is I did a bit of like sliding back and forth. That's basically just, it's a slight lack of commitment, but also a bit of like, since I don't have all that repetition as I do with my right foot, there's not as much coordinated strength, which you're gonna need and you're gonna get eventually, but don't be discouraged if you don't have it at first. It's gonna take a while. Just make sure the spot is sliding properly to actually help you like get into that rhythm and that groove, you know? If you have a spot that slides terribly, even if you're experienced with this trick, it's gonna make it really hard, and most of all, it's not gonna make it any fun, and usually you're not gonna end up like executing the trick properly, which at the end of the day, we wanna maintain some integrity on our tricks, right? Or at least I do. I think it's important. It's important to have fun, obviously, but there are certain things about these tricks. A Fahrvergnügen needs to be boot down in order to be called that trick. If you're not doing it boot down, you tried it, but you didn't do it. So try to set that goal for yourself to actually get it boot down. Ideally, you can jump off the torque, which is your front foot of this trick. If you jump off the torque, that usually means that you're in a very good stance. If you cannot jump off the torque, who cares? Just gonna do the front far from this angle to put some more emphasis on the knees that need to go on top. Makes it easier. That worked pretty well. And as you could see, I would actively try to push my knees on top, which is, again, most important. Try to, whenever you're trying this trick, try to fully commit to this. Whenever you feel like you're like not getting the boot down, but you're like this, and you're usually leaning back too much, which, fair enough, but it's usually just the upper body that needs to be fixed. Usually the hip is where it needs to be. It's just the upper body that goes back, and then you're kind of like standing in your own way. So try to have the upper body straight up over the, like over the center of your 2 feet, like this. Gotta make it way easier. As for the back farv, it's pretty much the mirrored version. So more pressure on the third wheel from the front, because you are standing backside on top of this. So this time you don't want to push your knees over the spot, but you want to have your hip more over it, which is exactly what I think makes this trick harder. I mean, you can tell that left foot back farv stance is awful. That's just because I think the couple of tries that I gave it right now are the first ones in years. I'm gonna do a back farv this way and that way to show how I'm executing these. Gonna have the hip over. I didn't even worry about the kid because I knew that I wouldn't crash into him. He's rolling up to the camera, but I knew that I had a solid stance. I had my hip over, so I wouldn't come off early off the ledge. Oh my God, that felt so good. Holy shit. So yeah, I would recommend trying the front side Fahrvergnügen first, just in order to get that commitment fully down, and then move on to the back farv, because personally it's a bit harder on flat. I think if you're skating anti-rocker or a freestyle, so if you're having like smaller wheels or no wheels in the middle of your skate, middle 2 wheels, then I think this whole thing is slightly easier just to hold it on the top. With flat, you need to apply way more pressure, which forces you to be way more centered on the spot in order to like hold the trick. All right, so essentially that is it for Fahrvergnügen. There's not much really to add. It's not that much of a special trick. It just needs to follow these couple of very basic things in order to make the trick, first of all, easier and more consistent, and also to make it look better. So I hope these tricks would help you, and just get some repetition, try it on different spots, try to do it on, if you're feeling comfortable enough, try to do it on spots that go down, try to do it on spots that go up if you're feeling strong enough. It usually requires a bit more commitment, but just try to gradually improve the steepness of the spots if you feel comfortable. Try to work on that, and with that you're just going to master the trick. And once you get the hang of it, it's sort of a no-brainer to do this trick. And to end this off, I'm just going to like slightly touch the aspect of a torque. Torque is half of Fahrvergnügen if you want. It's, instead of having both feet, you're just gonna have the boot down foot sliding in this direction in this case. And it is just as simple as that. You want to do the Fahrvergnügen and get really good at this, and gradually try to remove the back foot as you're grinding. So you're just gonna grind, and you're gonna feel like how much more you need to lean into that front foot in order to get this trick properly. Okay, I'm gonna showcase this with a front farv. Just gonna jump up, lift the foot, and that's it. That might have looked fairly easy. That's just because I have a ton of repetition with that, and also I don't feel any discomfort when trying the front torque itself. So this is kind of like a step back, but it is a good way to get into it and get a feeling of how the stance should look, because you can try it on the ground a couple of times, but you don't have any assisting foot on this one. So this has to be like balanced properly and jumped on properly. One thing you will notice is the higher you lift your loose foot up, the easier it actually will get to balance this trick. I noticed it when I tried left foot front torque for the first time, and I would always have my right foot like very low to the rail, like it would almost be like this, which ended up making it so much harder to actually balance it all the way through, or even just hold the torque itself, like just maintaining a torque position and not like having like touching the rail or like stepping off. And that's basically it. Once you feel comfortable with that, you can play around with that. You can add a grab. You hardly ever see me grab a torque, but I will try it. On a front torque, on a ledge, it's actually quite nice. On a rail, not that sure about it. It just feels odd. I don't know. Not team, you need to grab everything. It messes with my balance, I can tell. And that's the thing about the torque. Whenever I'm trying it with my left foot, there's this lack of commitment, that leaning back. You need to lean to the front in order to actually get it. Holy shit. All right, that's my input on the Fahrvergnügen / Torque Slide so far. You can tell it's kind of moving from the beginner section to intermediate section of inline skating. So that's kind of an interesting tilt right there. The front torque with the left foot gave me some work right now, but pretty happy with the result, or at least how it felt. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, I hope my thoughts on this could help you learn or perfect this trick for yourself. It's a very fun trick to do, very widely applicable on every single spot basically. And as always, I'm gonna leave my Patreon link in the description below. Thank you for everyone that is supporting. Thank you for everyone that joined within the last days and weeks. It's been a blast, and I'm hoping that we can kind of build a more intentional community for skating right now, because just Instagram and Threads and X and whatever, it's just as far from intentional like focus on skating and what makes skating fun and like where could we improve and all that. It's as far from that as it could get, so trying to move away from that. Gonna move on to Patreon, a bit more into the YouTube things. So I'm happy to keep this momentum going for now. I hope I can keep it up for a longer period of time now. And that's it for now. You can buy these skates through the link in the description. 2 sizes are already sold out, but if you want to skate the same setup as I do, there's still some in stock. Thank you for everyone that has supported, because this is my unique, my pro model, and it's always cool to see people representing this skate out there and just enjoying themselves on these skates. So, not gonna ramble any longer. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time and keep skating.